You know, when you look at India today, one thing just leaps out at you: the sheer size and potential of its Gen Z population.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about what? Roughly 377 million individuals. That's close to 40% of the entire country.
It's huge. And it's not just the numbers, right?
Hmm?
Their economic influence is growing incredibly fast.
Exactly. Projections suggest they could command a staggering $1.8 trillion in spending power by 2035?
Wow. That's a colossal market.
It really is. And naturally, everyone wants a piece of that pie.
Absolutely. This isn't just a large demographic. They are digital natives
Hmm.
with really distinct spending habits and, a significant sway over trends.
That was true.
If you're looking at the future of the Indian market, you just have to understand and engage with Gen Z. It's paramount.
Which perfectly sets the stage for our deep dive today. We're asking, why is RuPay, India's own payment network, making such a focused push to attract this young generation?
Good question.
What's the story behind RuPay itself? Is it genuinely appealing to Gen Z? And maybe the big one, can it realistically compete with the established global players like Visa and MasterCard for their wallets?
Right. These are the key questions we need to explore. And to understand RuPay's current strategy, we really need to dig into its origins and what it actually offers today.
Okay.
So we've gathered information about Gen Z in India, detailed background on RuPay itself from Wikipedia, some first-hand user experiences from Reddit, which should be interesting,
Yeah, always good to get that perspective.
and insights into its advantages from GoKiwi blog. Our goal really is to unpack RuPay's whole approach to the youth market and kind of assess its potential in this evolving payments landscape.
Okay, so let's start right at the very beginning. What exactly is RuPay and what prompted its creation?
Well, the genesis of RuPay is actually quite fascinating. It was conceived by the Reserve Bank of India, the RBI, back in 2009.
Okay, so the central bank.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The RBI had a very clear objective
Hmm.
to establish a domestic, open, and multilateral payment system for the country.
Right.
The responsibility for actually implementing it fell to the National Payments Corporation of India, or NPCI, and RuPay was officially launched in 2012.
So this wasn't just some random development. It was a deliberate, strategic move by the RBI to foster a homegrown alternative in the payment space.
Precisely. Initially, the card even had a tentative name, India Pay, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but the name RuPay, which is a pretty clever blend of rupee and payment, right?
Yeah, it works.
It was ultimately chosen to avoid any potential naming conflicts. Even the logo, with its color scheme, it sort of subtly pays homage to the Indian tricolor flag.
Hmm?
The fundamental aim was always to create a robust domestic alternative to the then dominant MasterCard and Visa. And the broader goal was consolidating and better integrating India's pretty diverse payment systems.
It sounds like more than just branding. It was about building essential national financial infrastructure.
Exactly that. It wasn't solely about having an Indian name on a card. It was about constructing a resilient and crucially independent payment ecosystem.
Makes sense.
RuPay was officially launched nationwide on May 8, 2014 by the President of India at the time. And then, to pursue international ambitions, NPCI later established a subsidiary, NPCI International Payments Limited, or NIPL.
Okay.
That was in August 2020, with the specific mandate of taking RuPay out to global markets. So you could think of the RBI as the architect, maybe NPCI as the construction crew,
Right.
and NIPL as the team taking the finished product out to the world.
Okay, got it. And in terms of how it's been adopted so far, what kind of footprint has RuPay established in India?
Well, by March 2021, RuPay had already achieved a pretty significant foothold. It accounted for 34% of transaction volume and 30% of transaction value.
That's substantial.
It is, and this growth hasn't gone unnoticed by the government either. In December 2021, a substantial package, 1,300 crore, was approved to further promote RuPay, particularly among underserved populations.
Wow.
So that shows a clear commitment from the state to its growth.
That level of government backing definitely signals a strong commitment, doesn't it?
Indeed. And perhaps one of the most telling signs of RuPay's increasing competitive pressure is the fact that both MasterCard and Visa have reportedly raised concerns with the United States Trade Representative.
Oh, interesting.
regarding India's proactive promotion of its own network.
So the big guys are noticing.
The fact that giants like Visa and MasterCard are reportedly raising concerns, well, that really underscores the disruption RuPay might be causing.
Right.
Makes you wonder about their long-term strategies in response.
Wow, that definitely suggests they see RuPay as a real contender then.
Yeah.
So, okay, we understand the origins, the strategic rationale behind RuPay, but the crucial question for our listeners, especially that younger demographic is RuPay actually cool?
Right.
What real advantages does it offer to someone, say, in their teens or early 20s?
That's the million-dollar or maybe trillion-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
That's what will determine its future success with this demographic.
Mhm.
So RuPay provides a pretty diverse range of card types. You've got debit cards, classic, platinum, and the more premium select designed for different spending capacities.
Okay.
They also offer credit cards, which have been operational since June 2017 and are now issued by an increasing number of banks. Then there are prepaid cards,
Right.
including specialized ones like the IRCTC UBI card and the MobiQuick card, alongside government-sponsored cards for initiatives like the Don Yojana and agricultural support.
Mm.
You can even find combo cards that integrate features from different categories.
So a pretty comprehensive suite of options domestically. What about using them internationally? I know Gen Z often has global aspirations, whether it's travel or just online shopping from international sites.
Yeah, good point. This is where RuPay Global plays a vital role. They've established partnerships with major international payment networks like Discover, JCB, UnionPay, Nets, BC Card, ELO, and Dynacard.
That's quite a list.
It is. And this enables RuPay cards to be accepted at over 42 million point-of-sale terminals and close to 2 million ATMs across 185 countries.
Okay, that's pretty wide coverage.
Instead of getting there. And notably, the RuPay JCB Global Card even comes with some attractive benefits like cashback on international POS transactions and access to airport lounges in select cities.
Lounge access is always popular.
Definitely. So for a generation that values global experiences, the international acceptance of RuPay has got to be a significant selling point. I wonder if there are specific marketing efforts targeting young travelers, though.
That's a good question. It sounds like it could definitely resonate with that globally minded younger generation. What other features or benefits might appeal to them? Maybe those who are just starting their careers or even, venturing into entrepreneurship.
Right. For the digitally savvy and often business-oriented Gen Z, RuPay has specific offerings. There's RuPay eCom for online transactions, commercial credit cards tailored for corporate clients, and something called RuPay Pro, specifically designed for young entrepreneurs.
RuPay Pro, okay.
Yeah, and they also have Nth Rewards, which is their loyalty platform. On the tech front, RuPay features contactless technology for quick tap and pay.
Standard now, yeah.
Pretty much. And the National Common Mobility Card, or NCMC. Now, this is a really forward-thinking initiative aiming for a single card for all transportation payments nationwide.
The one card idea.
Exactly. We're even seeing integrations like Airtel Payments Bank launching smartwatches with NCMC functionality built in.
A smartwatch payment for the bus. That's neat.
It is. For a generation that relies heavily on public transport and values seamless digital experiences, the one card for all concept must be a huge draw, right? I wonder how widely it's being adopted by younger people in urban centers. The sources didn't quite specify that level of detail.
Yeah, one card for all payments. That sounds incredibly convenient, especially for navigating city life.
It is. And RuPay is also heavily invested in security, apparently. They have the NPCI tokenization system, TROF, launched in October 2021 to protect card details.
Tokenization, right. So safe for online payments.
Basically, yeah. Think of it like getting a temporary unique ID for your card details each time you transact online. Makes it much harder for fraudsters to steal your actual card number.
Got it.
And they were also instrumental in developing Farad QR, that interoperable QR code payment system that's just, well, it's everywhere in India now.
Ubiquitous, yeah. So a strong emphasis on technology and convenience. But what about the more practical aspects, like cost? Are there any financial advantages to using RuPay?
This is a really significant area where RuPay holds a potential edge, because the processing of RuPay transactions is primarily negotiated within India.
Ah, okay.
The fees charged to merchants can potentially be lower compared to the international networks. Gaudy blog points this out, saying the savings can be pretty substantial for merchants handling a high volume of card payments.
Right, lower costs for businesses.
Exactly. Moreover, the merchant discount rate, or MDR, the fees merchants pay for processing transactions, that has been eliminated for all RuPay debit card transactions since January 2020.
Zero MDR on debit. Wow.
Yeah. And there's also a regulatory push. It mandates that all Indian companies with an annual turnover exceeding euro crore must offer RuPay debit card and UPI as payment options.
Okay, that forces adoption.
It's a strong incentive, definitely, for both merchants and consumers.
That sounds like a significant cost advantage, both for businesses and potentially maybe trickling down to consumers in some way. And we can't overlook RuPay's role in promoting financial inclusion across the country, can we?
Absolutely not. The Jion Dan Yojana, that national mission focused on financial inclusion, that's been a major catalyst for RuPay's widespread adoption. It provided access to banking services and issued RuPay debit cards to a vast number of account holders, over 308 million by March 2021.
Incredible numbers.
Huge. RuPay also has targeted initiatives for specific sectors, like the Kizan card for farmers and partnerships, to facilitate direct commission payments, for example, with agricultural organizations like Pungrain and dairy cooperatives like Amul.
Okay, so on paper, RuPay presents a really compelling package of features, benefits, national backing. But what do the actual users think? Especially the younger generation, the ones potentially using these cards every day. Let's tap into the pulse of online discussions.
Yeah.
Explore what the Reddit community is saying, particularly on the Our Credit Cards India subreddit. It's often a great source for those unfiltered, real-world perspectives, isn't it?
It certainly is. And when we examine the discussions around RuPay credit cards specifically on Reddit, we find a pretty diverse range of experiences being shared. It's not all one way.
Okay.
Some users report that they find RuPay credit cards genuinely useful, primarily because they enable UPI payments.
UPI on credit, that's the big one.
That's the key feature people talk about. It's seen as a significant benefit, especially for smaller transactions where maybe other credit cards might not offer rewards. The ability to pay local vendors via UPI using a credit card is a notable advantage for some.
Yeah, I can see that being useful.
There's also a clear preference among users for lifetime free or LTF RuPay cards. Nobody wants fees if they can avoid it. And a few users even mention receiving cash back on UPI transactions, or sometimes when paying their RuPay credit card bills using specific debit cards, like I think HDFC Platinum was mentioned.
Interesting workaround.
Yeah. And it's also interesting to note that the idea of national security, having an indigenous payment network, that does seem to resonate with a segment of users. They mention it.
Okay, so that covers the positive feedback.
Yeah.
What are some of the drawbacks or criticisms being voiced by these Reddit users?
Well, on the other hand, a recurring concern, and it comes up a lot, is that many merchants are increasingly disabling UPI payments via credit cards.
Because of the MDR charges.
Likely, yeah. The cost for the merchant. Consequently, some users are finding their RuPay cards becoming largely ineffective for UPI, which ironically was a primary reason they got them in the first place.
That's frustrating.
Very. There are also reports of low or even non-existent rewards on UPI transactions, despite maybe what was advertised. Some users express just general skepticism about the actual advantages compared to the well-established networks like Visa and MasterCard.
Right. The devil's in the details of the rewards.
Exactly. Issues with the reliability of UPI via RuPay credit cards, transaction failures at certain merchants are also mentioned. And a key limitation users point out is that RuPay UPI seems to be mainly for merchant QR codes, not for personal UPI transfers between individuals.
So you can't easily pay a friend back using the credit card via UPI.
Apparently not easily, no. So while that UPI on credit card feature is a major draw, its actual day-to-day practicality seems to be facing some real challenges, mostly related to merchant acceptance and maybe the reward structure.
So it really seems the user experience is a bit of a mixed bag right now, and the utility of RuPay credit cards for UPI is still kind of evolving, influenced by both merchant policies and just individual experiences.
Exactly. The reception is definitely varied, and the way RuPay credit cards are being utilized for UPI is clearly a dynamic situation. It's subject to changes in merchant practices, maybe bank policies, user feedback. It's moving.
Okay. This all leads us then to the really crucial question. Can RuPay realistically capture a significant share of the market currently dominated by Visa and MasterCard in India? I mean, they've held the lion's share for so long.
It's the big question. And RuPay has undoubtedly made impressive progress. I mean, look at the numbers. Its market share in terms of cards issued in India saw this remarkable surge from just 0.6% in 2013 to 50% by November 2018.
50% of cards issued, that's huge.
Half the market in just 5 years, yeah. In fact, RuPay even surpassed Visa in terms of transaction volume back in June 2017.
Wow.
By May 2019, RuPay's share in both Point-of-sale, POS, and online transactions was also climbing, reaching 30% and 25% respectively.
Mhm.
And get this, in the fiscal year 2019, RuPay processed 1 billion transactions.
A bill.
Yeah, marking a substantial 70% increase from the previous year, along with an 80% growth in transaction value.
Mm.
Those are some seriously significant growth numbers, indicating a strong upward trajectory.
Those are definitely impressive growth figures. What else is contributing to RuPay's increasing visibility and market presence? Is it just the government push?
Well, the government push is huge, but there's more. A significant recent development is RuPay becoming an official partner of the Indian Premier League, the IPL, starting in 2022.
Ah, the IPL. Massive audience.
Massive. This multi-year association will undoubtedly enhance its visibility among a huge audience, including that key Gen Z demographic we've been talking about.
Good strategic move.
And as we touched upon earlier, RuPay is actively pursuing international expansion. Those agreements and partnerships established with numerous countries and payment networks, Singapore, Bhutan, UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Myanmar, South Korea, Nepal, France, UK, Russia, Oman, Europe, Mauritius.
Quite the global footprint building up.
Yeah, and with potential future expansion into markets like Australia, the Philippines, and the Maldives. Plus, remember, the fact that Visa and MasterCard have raised concerns definitely speaks volumes about the perceived threat.
True.
And you just can't understate the consistent government backing and initiatives promoting RuPay. They provide a significant tailwind for growth.
Yeah, the fact that major players like Visa and MasterCard are taking notice definitely suggests RuPay is a force to be reckoned with. However, we also need to consider those real-world user experiences we just heard about from Reddit,
Well,
right?
precisely. That's the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
While there's clearly strong momentum and huge potential, we also need to acknowledge the challenges highlighted by users, particularly the issues with merchant acceptance for UPI via credit card and those varying user perceptions of the actual benefits compared to the established global networks.
So putting it all together, what's your overall assessment? Can RuPay ultimately overtake the established giants? Is it on track?
Look, while RuPay has achieved considerable growth and demonstrates really strong potential, fully displacing entrenched global networks like Visa and MasterCard,
Yeah.
that's likely going to be a long and complex process.
No easy task.
Not at all. Its continued success will depend on several key factors.
Uh-huh.
Sustained innovation in its offerings, increasing adoption among users, particularly that tech-savvy Gen Z, broader and more consistent acceptance by merchants, especially for features like UPI on credit, and of course, continued support of government policies. It needs all those things to align.
Okay. So as we wrap up this deep dive, it seems RuPay has built a really solid foundation. It's a government-backed initiative. It's got a clear focus on capturing that massive and influential Gen Z demographic in India.
Right.
It offers some compelling advantages, particularly the potential for lower merchant fees and that innovative, if currently sometimes problematic, concept of UPI on credit.
Uh-huh.
And while user experiences are currently a bit mixed and definitely still evolving, RuPay's international presence is steadily expanding.
Exactly. The initial question of whether RuPay can truly capture the market share, well, that story is still very much unfolding. The journey of this indigenous payment network, especially playing out against the backdrop of a huge digital native generation, creates a really unique dynamic to watch.
It certainly does. And it leaves us with a final thought for you, our listener. Maybe consider how the rise of national payment systems like RuPay might reshape the global financial landscape.
Interesting point.
What are the potential implications for things like data sovereignty or just the level of competition in the digital age? Will we see a future with more regionally focused payment networks challenging the long-standing dominance of the truly global players? It's definitely something to consider.